my name is Shantell Quintanar. I'm a realtor in Denver, Colorado.
Hi, I'm Laura Melquist, a realtor in Colorado and Minnesota.
This is the M.O.R.E podcast. We are the mothers of real estate. We are really talking about family, real estate, wealth building, and anything related to just building a great community.
All right. Well, today we're going to have a really amazing guest that's going to talk about his journey from being a laborer to becoming an entrepreneur. And I think you and I both can identify with that.
Yes.
Yeah, we were definitely laborers.
Definitely.
I don't know about you, but for me, that was a hard transition because I, in whatever regard, enjoyed the security of being employed. And I don't think I think there's those true entrepreneurs. Like my husband is that way. Like he wants to be self-employed. He wants that off the beaten path. He wants the challenge and kind of the scary journey that, the benefits that are reaped from that. What do you feel like the transition was from you being an employee to being your own self-employed entity?
Yeah, I think I was in for a rude awakening, in all honesty, especially moving halfway across the country and
Yeah, I didn't have that.
and just thinking, oh, it's gonna be fine. And then a couple weeks go by and you're like, oh, I didn't get my paycheck.
Yeah.
What,
I've worked this hard. I haven't got paid.
I've been working hard, or dang, especially as a real estate agent, these people I thought were prospective clients really just wasted my time and pretended that they were interested in buying a home, gave me a pre-approval or gave me a proof of funds, and it went nowhere. So I think for me, it was, all not only not getting that paycheck, but like that puts like a fire under your butt.
Yeah.
I got to figure out how I'm going to make this money and stop wasting my time in things that aren't serving me.
Yep.
But it's even hard, I think, as an entrepreneur, even now, where I know it's not hard for Dominic, but you need to spend money to put money towards your business to, hit those next levels. And sometimes it's hard to see yourself of, okay, I'm investing in this. This may or may not help my business, and I'm going to have to potentially eat this cost or different things like that. So
To figure out if it works.
out if it works at first and try it out. And I think that's been the hardest thing for me personally. But that's just that entrepreneur spirit of, I did not have it. I loved security. I loved, climbing the, ladder at work and corporate ladder. And, but I wouldn't trade being an entrepreneur to go back to the corporate world.
That's a good point too. It's a very hard transition out. And I would say if you choose to go back in, that's even a harder transition. Like I can't see myself being an employee anymore. Like I have now been like, you can't tell me what to do. And I'm not doing that for that. And I'm, you change very quickly into realizing what the benefits of it are. But I think that first step through that doorway is so difficult. And to your point, not only where's my paycheck in that mind frame of like, I did all this work, I need to get paid. But then you do start getting paid and now you have to manage your own funds and you have to do your own, pay your own taxes and you have to figure out what works. I've said in the real estate entity, because we're in real estate, so that's the only point of reference I have of being self-employed. I do have other businesses now, but they're all related to that. But I say in the real estate industry, one of the things that knocks a lot of people out of being able to be in this industry is that they need an employer.
Yep.
They need a boss. They have too much freedom and not enough discipline with that freedom, where it's like, no one's going to tell you you have to go to work. No one's going to tell you what time to get up. Nobody's going to tell you how many things you have to do. No one's going to fire you if you don't do them. You'll just not have a paycheck for 9 months.
Yep.
And that's crazy.
And I think a lot of people, they don't realize coming in that they won't have that support, but also it is what you make it, right?
Sure.
Because, a big turning point for me was in 1 month making my old salary,
Same.
and going, okay, this is really endless opportunities that we can make. And on top of that, for instance, I thought I was going to have, a busy weekend with clients over 4th of July. And all of my clients went on vacation and did different things. And I was like, okay, I have a couple days where now I can maybe go, hang out with some of my friends, take a little trip, do what I want. And at a corporate position, I would not be able to do that. And I know not everybody can live in the chaos like that.
Sure.
But I kind of thrive in chaos.
You sure do.
I
That is your sweet spot.
But it's those things that really open your eyes of if you put your head down and grind, and even if you struggle and you really do need, that boss and you feel you need that way, how can you restructure your mind so that, because that was not, ever thinking I would ever be an entrepreneur because I couldn't switch that mindset.
Sure.
And if you can do that and you can train your mind to do that, anybody can be an entrepreneur. It's just about how badly you want it.
Yeah. And I was just talking to somebody about this today, and I was saying, now that I've been in this long enough to kind of see some of the hardships that people have and the people that fail and why do they fail and, really assess that, I start to realize too, when somebody says to me when they first are getting into this industry, and I would say this with all, owning your own business endeavors, they say, I want freedom. I don't think you get that for a very long time. What you get instead of that, which the word that I think that if they're hoping to use this word, they can achieve this early, flexibility. Freedom was definitely not something that I think I got within this last 3 years. I've just started to scratch the surface of feeling like, all right, I don't have to do anything. I got a little money. I can take up some time off, but that was very hard for me in the beginning. But flexibility I did have because I may be working till midnight or 2 a.m., but I didn't ever have to miss my kids' show, or I didn't ever have to, worry that I was going to get fired because they were sick and I had to tend to them. So flexibility I did have from the beginning. You're choosing your own work schedule. So I knew how much work it took in order to make the money that I needed to make and hit the contacts I needed to do and do that. I could do that at any time. I could do that on a Saturday, on a Sunday, evening, early morning. I could be flexible, but I didn't have freedom. And I think people, when they go, oh, I want to ease your schedule, that's when I want to work. It's like, you're going to be unemployed. You're going to be right back to your old job pretty quickly.
Yep. And that's where you're not going to make money, right?
Yeah.
There's a level of flexibility and then there's not, right?
Mm-hmm.
For me, like I said, I set 9 to 9. I'm not answering your phone call before or after that unless it's a 911 emergency. And my definition
call 911
of a 911 emergency is not most people's, and I will probably just tell you, go call 911. Like, I'm so
your house
sorry.
on fire again. I'm not a fireman.
And such. And, that's not to say I don't ever make exceptions for those, because
Sure.
sometimes it just happens in the industry that we're in.
Yeah.
But understanding that you have that flexibility, you don't have to say, I'm going to go to an appointment at 3:00 to your point because maybe your kids have a recital or something
Sure.
that you really want to be at. So you get to make your own schedule, but also understand that you have clients that you're providing a service to.
Yeah.
And so making your own schedule doesn't mean that you don't get up every morning and make phone calls. You don't, stop what you're doing, say your listing flooded or the pipes burst or something.
Sure.
Things come up and, at the end of the day, as entrepreneurs, we are providing services to our clients. And, at some point, hopefully, you build your business to a point where you're maybe not dealing with those things and you have people working under you,
Right.
On a salary basis,
Sure.
that fit in that role. And I also think, with real estate agents specifically, or in other industries too, sometimes, you want to go start this business yourself, be solo, realize that you need that structure. And there are other options. Like you can still be a real estate agent or you can still be, in the concrete business or whatnot, but still work for somebody else.
Sure.
That's going to help provide that guidance for you as well. And so I think really identifying early on what you need to do, and what support you need is really important if you want to be part of that 13%, that is going to be staying in the real estate game.
Yeah, some people may have not heard that before. What are you talking about with 13%?
Yeah, so within the first 5 years of real estate, 87% of real estate agents actually quit and fall out of the industry. So I typically like to always talk about the 13% club. We technically still have a couple more years
That's
left.
right. We're technically not part of the
Technically,
13%.
we're not
And most of them first year though. Most of
most
those
of them
people
are.
are hitting out their first year because there are some slow, they trudge through the mud a little bit longer. So,
Yep.
but yeah, I mean, we haven't hit our 5-year mark yet. And so I don't plan on quitting and I don't think you do either, but who knows?
Yeah. Our podcast might not do very well if that's the case. Nobody's going to be
Yeah, I don't
listening
think
to
it'll
us
be
anymore.
It'll be super inspiring to talk about
Yes.
business when you're out of it.
We
But
failed. Learn from our failures.
see, that's a good
Little spin. We're going to
That's right.
spin it.
That's right.
So this can keep going. But, I think it's also just very important to understand that role in that, right?
Yeah.
You want to be able to do these activities by yourself, but sometimes you realize maybe I need to join a team or I need
Sure.
to do this or that, but you're not going to bring, to a team no work ethic. No agent that's successful is working 30 minutes a day. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Unless they are extreme, now they're a team owner, but even then they have other responsibilities that they have to cater to on a daily basis. And so I think that's really big for people to understand because entrepreneurship is hard.
Mhm.
And even if you have that mindset, it's still hard.
Right.
So you really have to be able to persevere through.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the other thing, I say this every podcast, so people better get used to it. It's a book. It's a book I read, okay? This book said, it's all about momentum, which I agree. Like I've been listening to a lot of people who are successful, and it's not necessarily that they're the hardest worker, but they're the most consistent worker, right? We've talked about that a lot, and I think that that's a big part of like, are you working on your business and in your business consistently? And I just loved this analogy, and I just used it with somebody today, and they were like, "Oh, they just chopped me in the throat." But it said, "You can't steer the parked car." And I liked that because it was basically saying, like, look, you don't even have enough momentum to go the right direction. Because I think we've talked about this before, but that whole action breeds action logic is true. When I start doing what I'm supposed to be doing, things that aren't even related to what I'm doing, people start calling in with referrals and people start, reaching out, and there's something about activity that kind of creates this momentum in the universe to say like, this person's working, like start throwing some things in their process. And it's not very often, but when I do fall off kilter and I am not doing the things I'm supposed to be doing, I can feel that slow the train down and just be like, we're starting to grind gears now. And I just think that's super interesting how that works and how a lot of times people don't understand. No one's going to tell you what to do, but you have to have a structured way. Treating this like a real job. That's another thing. When people are entrepreneurs, you can tell some people work more because it's their business, and some people work less because they're like, well, no one's telling me I have to. I can do a little bit, and that's better than nothing. So I think that that's really, really important too.
And I think, we all at some point fall down a rabbit hole when you start getting very successful with your business. I have been guilty of this.
Sure.
Where you are getting very, very successful, you're making the money, you're doing this, and then, one of two things happens. You don't feed back into your business, or you decide, oh, let's go take some time off.
Yeah.
Let's go do this and let's go do this. And then you come back into your business and you go, well, I don't have any transactions this month, or I don't have as very much business happening this month.
Sure.
And it's because not only do I think you do need to take some time off and, do those things, but some people take it on another level. And then all of a sudden it's like they have to restart their business over again to start getting the momentum back.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in real estate, we call it the real estate roller coaster, right? Where it's like every time that you have this transaction, you focus on that, and then it closes and you get some money, and then you just constantly keep chasing. And I think I would say, again, without owning businesses outside of real estate, I could say that that's probably the same thing in a lot of industries. For many, many years, my uncle did construction, and there's layoffs in the fall and the winter. That's just notorious. And every year he would act surprised. He's like, yeah, it's like 17 years now. Like, what are you doing to prepare for that? So I think regardless, it's like, how are you storing for the storm? Like, how are you getting yourself situated with what is going to be coming? And I think when you're self-employed, that's super duper important because we've now realized through the seasons that we've been through, oh, it's not the same in July as it is in October. And January. And so I think that that's another part that people don't, I didn't anticipate that. I made more than I had in an annual salary in 1 month. And I was like, this is now the standard. I am going to do this every month. I'm going to do this. And I did do the same things. I wasn't like I changed my behavior, but I didn't realize the cyclical side of that, where it's like, okay, that might come later, but it's not going to come right now. And so that also has helped me now and a couple of years in to say, I can take some time in certain weekends and I can take some time during the holidays, but I still have to be building momentum to get where I want to go when the time hits.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Other than just the basics, what we know are hard transitions for, going into being self-employed, what are some other things that you feel like were hard transitions for you?
I had a lot of hard transitions. Not sure use the word a lot. What is a lot?
Specific. What is a little lot?
Yeah,
These were for a company that you couldn't say a lot. You had to have specifics always.
Yes, you always had to have specifics. This was a different dynamic for me starting in a new city and trying to navigate. 'Cause I honestly started in an industry where I need to know neighborhoods and I had no clue.
That's a good, I never thought about that until you just said that. Like you were in a completely different state.
Someone's asking me, what the next town over is like. And I'm like, I don't even think I've ever been there. But
or what kind of neighborhood it is. You're like, I don't know. Let's Google it.
Fair housing.
That's
really
right.
Saved me on a lot of things.
That's true.
Unfortunately, fair housing restricts me from commenting on good or bad neighborhoods.
I cannot steer you.
I cannot steer you. And that really did save my life. But I'm sorry to my clients that are watching this in my first couple years, but I got you the good
practice. That's right.
But I think there were a lot of different obstacles in that nature. But then the other pieces too of understanding if you're an entrepreneur, you don't have medical benefits, or you don't have different benefits that your corporate employer may have provided for you.
Sure.
And so those different things, getting all of that set up, understanding, man, this cost is a lot more expensive than when I was, paying it through my company.
Yeah.
But also just running your own business and, understanding how to do that is very, very hard. It's not hard in a sense of the tasks to keep your business alive, with filings and different things like that. It's just you don't know what you don't know, right? So unless you, get someone guided or, a great CPA that can really give you everything that you possibly need to do and really guide you through that, it can get very expensive. Or for instance, I didn't submit my periodic report and my business technically, was invalid. Yeah, for a short period of time. Didn't understand. And then I look it up and I'm like, oh, great. Now I got to pay this extra charge just to get me, back in good standing.
Yeah.
And so things like that happen and, you kind of just run with the punches. But, for some people, that's really stressful and they might dwell the whole day on it versus just fixing that problem and moving on.
Sure.
And such. I guess what do you think?
I would kind of be parallel with what you're thinking in the sense of when you're starting, you underestimate how much you're trying to figure out. And really what was hard for me is you're getting contacts from the ground level. So you're finding if the CPA is a good or bad CPA, you're finding, your contractors that you need in order to refer out to your clients, who those people are. I think that was a hard thing coming from an industry where I knew everybody that I needed to know and I built rapport with them and I built respect with them and I'd done all these things. Now I'm going into an industry where I know no one. I'm a, new starting ground and everybody knows it, right? Like we all look up in the real estate world, we're jerks. And so when you're new, you like totally fake it till you make it. And then when you're not new, you're like, what was my transactions? This person is, they're brand new. They don't even know what they're talking about. And so I didn't know what I was talking about. And I had to be able to build all of this infrastructure for a business that I didn't know how to build. And it's just like anything else. I mean, the way that you build it is through trial and error. You go, oh, that wasn't the best CPA, or oh, that wasn't the best contractor that I just gave to my clients, or oh, I don't know what I'm talking about and I probably should. And so the nice thing and the thing that I have always wanted to do and that you and I have done a good job of, and this is the whole purpose of this podcast even, is creating a tribe of people where you can utilize each other's resources. Because once you have them, you realize that they're worth their weight in gold. And it's a good contractor or a good CPA or a good lawyer employer referral or a good whatever you have.
Yep.
That is powerful. Like that is important. It makes your life a lot easier.
Extremely
A good
powerful.
stager.
And
That's a plug, guys.
sorry for coming soon.
That's right.
But I also think, to kind of stepstone on that is also understanding that sometimes in the agent community, one person's vendor list, what I learned early on, because I had a couple agents, they were great agents, not trash talking them whatsoever before I say this.
Tread lightly.
They gave me their vendor list. And, I learned very quickly.
Somebody gave me their vendor list.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever.
Well,
That's fine.
but I got their vendor list, and as I was going through the vendor list and I started like referring some people and whatnot, realizing, oh my gosh, some of these people on their vendor list are not good. They're a great agent, but I don't know when's maybe the last time they actually used this person.
Or maybe they're even good for them, but not good for you. Some people work better for me sometimes, and then I'm like, why didn't
we learn this the hard way?
Yeah, we did learn this the hard way.
We did.
That's true.
And stuff. And so I think we also need to understand different personalities, different things. There's always something else. And even so, I have sent sometimes the same vendor to one client, and then they say they rant and rave how great they are. And I send that to another client and they absolutely hated the vendor. And it could be two completely different experiences. And so understanding it's also very important to match people up, just like in real estate. There's times when I meet with someone and I just know I'm probably not the best agent for them, more so based on like personalities or what they need on their end. I might not be able to give to them, or vice versa. And I might go, hey, I have another agent that can really help you. This is them, and I'm matching them up, because I think so many times too, especially when you're new into a business, you're taking all this business that you have and you are, excited to have the business, but that specific client might be draining, and now you're doing one transaction when you could have done 5 at the same time. Or, it's just a constant clash sometimes, just on personality wise.
Sure.
And I think
communication
styles, everything. And I do a really great job adjusting to other people and, what they need communication wise and stuff like that. But I think it's very powerful to be able to say, you know what? I might not be able to service you as well as maybe this other person. So I'm going to send you over here because I want you to have the best possible service. And on our end, as real estate agents, we can just send a referral fee. So it's not like we're
still getting paid. Yeah. Well, that's a good point too, because in the beginning, the reason that you're willing to take so much on, it's because you're broke, right? So it's like, yeah, I do commercial. Yeah, I do land. Yeah, you have all this like, I'll do anything that pays kind of scenario.
Yep.
And then you get to a point where you're like, well, I'm not servicing the client well. I now have a little bit of money in my bank account where I'm not like, oh, I hope I could buy a burger, so please pay me.
Or some french fries.
Or some french fries. If it's a good week. And then you go into a point where that's a powerful position. And I think that is also where your business grows, because when you start to do things, I mean, we actually, as if you're an actual realtor, you take a vow, right? Your fiduciary duty is to act on behalf of the client's needs above your very own. You can usually tell when someone's like, I need this to close for my own personal benefit, and that's cool if it works for the client too. But you come into a powerful point in your business journey where you're like, I'm truly acting on the behalf of my clients. And that, I think, is when your business, like, that's where I see more referrals coming in. And that's where I see a better point of reference. And that's where I see even those referral checks going out being something that I know I did the right thing. And I think that that's a cool part of the journey too, that we're starting to really see now, in our 3.5 years. That's like, okay, this is all serving a bigger picture than just the immediate paycheck.
Yep.
Yeah, I love it. Me too. Yeah. So, I mean, we've kind of talked about some of the labor to business owner transitions, but is there anything that you would say, like, if you had to do it over again, is there anything you're like, I wish I would have known that, or that would have been helpful?
I'm going to be really honest. Had I known in the beginning, I may have done a different route because I think, that first month was really, really rough for me because I I think I underestimated how hard it would be to just get up, move to another state and, do
Yeah.
all that. Mind you, I started hitting transactions within 60 days of being in real estate. And
Yeah.
so that's nothing to complain about. But I think, the more there's a lot that I wish I would have known, but I don't know if it would have been in my best interest.
Mm.
I'm really big on, learning learning from my own mistakes. But I think, just really truly understanding that getting into real estate specifically is really hard. Being an entrepreneur and opening up your own business is extremely hard. And there's some times where you're taking those extra lender lunches because you just want to eat lunch today. And sorry to all those lenders that
They're like,
did
I bought her
that to.
steak.
They did.
There you go. So,
They did. And so I think for me, it's more so, yes, I would have liked, there's a lot of, catching myself saying a lot again, but there's many things that I wish I would have known, but I don't know if it would have served me in my best interest. Now, during the transaction piece, fortunately, I had lots of people that could help me navigate through tough transactions,
yeah.
which benefited my clients. But other than that, it was, very similar to other jobs we had where you had to just sit there and make phone calls. It's
Mhm.
not sexy. It's not fun,
Yeah.
Necessarily fun. Sometimes it's fun when you talk to people,
Yeah.
but sometimes you just don't feel like it, but you just have to do it.
Yeah.
And so, for me, that's kind of my stance on it. Not that I wouldn't have still gotten into real estate. But I think if I would have taken a little bit more of my due diligence and known exactly X, Y, and Z, I may have said, this might not be the smartest route for me to take.
Are you glad you did it?
I am glad I did it. Yes. Yeah. I wouldn't trade it for the
Well,
world.
so I'm glad that you said that because so maybe like a little less information is helpful. I feel like that about being a mom.
Mhm.
I feel like a lot of people don't tell you things about pregnancy or being a mom because you wouldn't do it. I'm glad they didn't tell me. Like if I would have understood the process of all of these things, no way. Like due diligence side, there's absolutely no way I'd be a mom.
Yep.
Multiple times. After the first time, right? You're like, okay, now I know what to expect. But I think it's just so interesting. But I think that's really a good point is like, yeah, you wish you would know, but practical application is pretty much the only way to learn certain things. And I think in our industry and in a lot of people's that's another reason that I think a lot of people get held back from starting businesses is they're like, well, I'm not ready yet. I
Go
like the
ahead,
opposite
dive in.
approach of just you're building the plane while you're flying it, and that's okay. And as long as you're willing to put the work in, you're gonna figure it out. And that doesn't mean it's gonna be easy. Neither of us had a easy road, but we were able to figure it out because we were committed to doing so.
Yeah, and I think, there's more resources out there than you think. So, I mean, I was a big proponent on YouTube, figuring out who's who,
Yeah.
how to do everything. Fortunately, we also have a training program. So if you are new to real estate,
Oh,
or you
now
just
you're gonna do a plug. Okay.
Yep. So here we go. But if you are new to real estate or you are not new and you just don't know
Haven't
what
felt like you had the same
felt like
traction.
you've had a lot of traction in real estate, we go a week by week, course with group coaching as well. And it really just outlines this is what you need to do. This is what this week, this is what you need to do the next week, and this and this and this.
Yeah.
And those are exact things that we did. And think some of it is things we didn't do because
Yeah. Some of the things we
trial-
added into the program
trial
were
and
because
error.
we did not get that
Yeah, we didn't know that, so you're at a better advantage than we were when we started.
Sure.
And so, there are tools and resources available and, they're at your fingertips. So really how much you want to apply yourself.
Yeah.
And that is really beneficial. YouTube is a huge for any entrepreneur. Like you can find anything on YouTube.
Well, and what is my famous answer whenever anybody asks me? I always say Google it because that's where I was the Google queen. Like I didn't know the answers to 99% of things, but 4 or 5 clicks in, I knew the answer of like, this is what this is. And so a client just asked me something a couple weeks ago about fracking in the area that he's buying it. And I'm like, hold please. And 5 clicks in, I'm like, well, here's what it is. And this is what's happening. I mean, I knew what fracking was, but I'm just saying, like, I didn't know about what was happening in that area and what this big project was that he was referring to and all these different things. And so I think to your point, you have to be resourceful enough to not wait for a lot of employee-minded people will go, nobody showed me that. It's like, no one's supposed to show you.
Nope.
Like, you're supposed to go get after it. If somebody helps you with it, that's fantastic. But if they don't, it's still your process. And I'm a firm believer, especially for myself, I didn't graduate high school. If I could do these things, you can absolutely do them. You're probably better educated than me. We can help you with tools, or you can go find them on your own. If I can do it, I mean, there was an agent that used to joke that, this is real estate is for people who lost their jobs elsewhere. And I'm like, isn't that the truth? But it's one of those things where, it's just not rocket science. And I think regardless of what business you're building, you have to be willing to fail through it and really make sure that you're okay with the fact that it's like, you're going to be humbled for a little while.
Well, and when you feel sad, I don't know if anyone remembers this, like probably a couple of years ago, the girl who was on TikTok and went viral for crying about her job, and now I have to become a real estate agent and whatnot. Yeah. We can enter that in here now if you have not seen it, because it's hilarious. She's just sobbing down.
She's devastated.
So devastated. And we get bad reps, right?
Yeah.
Like in real estate, because there's so many people that want to come in. They're, it's their last resort, and then they're
or they think they're going to be rich
that like immediately out. Or they think they're just going to get rich, and now they're not giving good service to, because they got commission breath on them. And so many things happen, which is really a disservice to agents like ourselves that we really put that customer first, right? And if I'm not, the best one to service you, I will find someone else. There's so many agents who won't do that and look out for the best interest of their clients. And that's just so terrible. And unfortunately, a reason we do get bad reps here as realtors.
Well, I think that's a good point too, is just like, you have to go in, if you're going to start a business in any capacity, probably should be something that you're passionate about, some avenue or another, because you hear that often. I mean, this isn't about starting a business, but I remember forever I had a friend that made way more money than I did, probably 5 times more money than I did. And he sold cars. And he was like, Shantell, like, you're a girl, you're funny, you do all these things like you would. And I'm like, I wouldn't be great at selling cars because I don't care about cars. To this day, I will describe them by color, like the silver SUV, like I don't
white car.
Right. Yeah. And so that wasn't something I was passionate about. But I think that that's another thing, is sometimes people come into this industry because of the money and not because they actually enjoy people or they enjoy, the real estate journey or those kind of things. So I think regardless of what business you start, you have to have some passion and probably some knowledge of it to be able to get to that point.
Definitely do. And it's going to be hard. Anything you start, it's always going to be hard. And it's even when it starts to get easy, it starts to get hard again. So
yeah. Well, that's it. That's a good point too, is like, if you're just going to be complacent and stay at the same level, I think you can probably do that. But anytime you want to continue to grow, which most people that have that spirit are going to want to go to the next level, you're starting from scratch again every single time. Every time you break through a new level.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I think we're going to be able to talk to an amazing entrepreneur and be able to really figure out what his journey was like too, and hopefully inspire some people to, if they want to, I don't want to start having bosses call me, but if they want to jump off of that, employee roller coaster and come into something that's their own. All right. We have an amazing guest here and a dear friend of mine, Toby Archuleta with Caliber One Concrete. Welcome.
Hello.
Yeah,
glad to be here.
Slow cap. Okay. So we are talking all about the fact of getting off of the employment venture and going into doing something on your own. So I know you own an amazing concrete business that I have actually used myself. So that's a testimonial right there. But tell me a little bit about how you started in business and the employment side, and then how you ventured out.
I guess I'll start with the employment side. I was young, messing up living with my dad.
Yeah.
Didn't want to go to school, being a knucklehead. And he's like, well, if you don't want to go to school, you got to go to work. So he took me out one day. It was a big commercial job. They're pouring this huge floor. It's probably like 10,000 square feet, rebar everywhere. I was totally lost. That was like my first day ever.
Like,
horrible.
like, I'm going to break you in. So
yeah,
you're
done. I didn't know anything. And everyone was just like yelling at me. Oh man, it was an experience. It
Yeah.
was like that for me for about a year, just trying to catch on.
Well, that's a big joke with like Mexican parents too, right? It's like they're always yelling at you about tools that you don't know and
Oh, yeah.
breaking you in. So I think that's so you started with that and nothing said go back to school. You said I'm doubling down. I'm going to stay doing this.
I guess so, yeah.
Looking back, you're like, I don't know what I was
You
thinking.
just saw that fork in the road and we're like, no, I'm staying on this one.
What it was too is I kind of just fell into the culture of it because my uncles worked there, cousins worked there. It was, there was a lot of family in that company I worked with, and just it was kind of like fun actually because everyone just talked stuff all day and it went by.
Yeah.
And I got a check at the end of the week, decent.
Good check, I'm
at
sure.
that age, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, hey, man, it's legit. So, all right.
You're like, I couldn't pay this money, but it would have been on the books.
Good. But yeah, that kept me going on it. And then I just kind of liked the physical part of it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun actually.
That's a good point with, a lot of people say that, like, I mean, people pay to go to the gym, that's something that you frequent as well, but I'm sure like that keeps you in a good grace of you're not sitting at an office eating Cheetos all day.
Right.
I mean, you could still eat some Cheetos.
Not
Sounds like Cheetos in
the
the truck.
concrete. You got little orange fingers in the concrete.
Here we are.
Okay, so how long did you do the just like employment, labor kind of scenario?
I don't know exact years or anything, but I had to be like, that was what, my senior year probably. Started doing that. And then
Okay.
I started my business in 2016.
Okay,
Okay.
you're at the 8-year mark.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I started out like general labor. Anyone familiar with it, I would just clean up basically,
Okay.
then help out on the floors.
Okay.
One of the older guys, he's like, hey man, you might as well learn how to finish because that's where the real money's at. So he's like, you're not going to get paid your overtime, but you could stay if you want to learn. So I just started doing that every day.
Okay.
And then ended up just picking it up and then became friends with all the finishers. And they were all like older guys, union guys, and they started looking out for me. So I got into the union at that time.
Nice.
And I went from like here to here pay grade, like overnight.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
That's what you're like,
That's
okay.
another thing that kept me going. I'm like, okay, I can make good money at this. So,
Well, that's a good point too, as far as like when you're working through things, a lot of times that is what keeps you employed.
yeah,
Breaking away from like getting someone else's paycheck, which your industry is a little different because you're still going to get paid, but like for a lot of people, that consistent paycheck is a big, driver to that.
it is. Yeah,
For sure.
it was awesome. Just I have countless experiences
Yeah.
in the industry. All the people I've met,
All the
Yeah.
stories.
interesting characters. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure.
Hilarious.
Yeah, everyone needs their concrete. That's awesome. And so you did that for, all those years. And then where did I'm going to start my own thing go into?
Yeah. I would say I did it for like, I'm trying to do the math, like 17 years.
Yeah.
Just,
But what made you
But-
say, like, I'm not going to do it for someone else anymore? I'm doing my own thing.
Yeah.
you know what it was? I think I started doing little side jobs. Because I was cool with I became a foreman. I was running work for a company and I was cool with it. A lot of hours, but then people started calling me, hey, you want to do a patio? So, then I had a mentor of mine. He taught me how to bid the jobs where I'd actually make money.
Okay.
I was like, are you doing it wrong? You want to make some money. So he taught me that and I was like, oh man, there's money in this. So I just started like doing that on the side. And then eventually I just broke away. I was like, why am I doing this? I could just do my own thing. And I just did that.
Cool.
But
Well,
I also I didn't just like actually jump into it though, because I also became a freelance finisher
Okay.
where I would work for other guys, day pay type.
Yeah. You
Okay.
could kind of subsidize your income and make sure. Well, and that's nice too, because we were just talking about the fact like we went into industries cold turkey that we didn't have a background in. And so that sounds like a nice.
Yeah,
That
You-
segue.
I'm not gonna lie. Yeah.
I'm like, well, if you're going to do that, do it that way instead of our way. Because
But it was still scary though, because I didn't have that job security.
Sure.
Yeah.
Especially like wintertime. Everyone just kind of, all right, I'll see you next season type things.
Right. So you
So-
had
It's a
to.
challenge.
So was that the biggest challenge that you faced, like in that transition, or was there other things that, made it difficult?
I think that was, probably the biggest is wintertime because because at that time I wasn't into other stuff. Like now we do landscape fencing, snow removal, a bunch of stuff. But at that time it was just concrete. So I was like, oh, what do I do? So then I would just go get other jobs and work somewhere else for a while until I figured it all out.
Well, we were just talking about, and I'm assuming that you probably had a similar, learning when the money is coming in. Takes you a while to learn what that seasonal flow feels like, because it's like steak and lobsters in the summer, and like,
ooh, this is great. Every month is like this. Let's go.
Yeah. And so, like, what was your learning with that? Like, how would you caution someone? Like, how much did you save, or what did you do, or how did you adjust to that?
I think it's just putting money away, percentage, of your choice. I mean, I don't know exactly what I put away now, but you just got to have that cushion.
Yeah, knowing you're gonna have
at least have your bills paid and some spending. Yeah, I would say for emergencies.
For sure.
Because if not, it's tough. I've been through that.
Yeah.
Start getting frustrated. Life gets rough.
For sure. Yeah, any kind of like self-employment or commission industry or anything like that, I think that people have to learn what to do with their money.
But I've been pretty fortunate though, because I know a lot of people in the construction industry, so I've always been able to like do other things too.
Yeah. Well, that's another good thing that I know about you is like you're a good networker and you've always been really, hardworking. And I think we were just talking about the fact that your momentum has to be there. You have to be willing to go out and work. Sometimes when people own their own businesses, they're very like, oh, there's no business. And it's like, go find business, figure out different things to do, figure out different ways to be viable. I just read a study and they said something about the fact that like this last 5 years, they studied all of the most successful people, and the quality that was prominent in all of them, it's different than it's ever been for successful people. It was adaptability.
Yeah.
That's the thing now. It's not education. For a long time, it was like you had to have a college degree, or you had to have this, or you had to have all these different, skill sets in order to be successful. They're now saying probably none of that is as important as just being able to figure out a way to like make do when you have to.
Yeah. And then just figuring things out. You got to learn the hard way sometimes too, though. I think them are the best learning curves. Like, I shouldn't have did it that way. And then next time you're like, oh, cool. I got to figure it out. That's how.
Yeah.
Yep.
I feel like I feel like a lot of people are like that, but I feel like especially males, like they have to feel it to believe it. Like they cannot be spoken to them. They cannot. I was thinking about.
We have to experience
it. Was told 100 times, but until you did it.
I think that's true.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just
maybe we're
not talking to fellas are going
to. Maybe we're stereotyping right
now. This is a women's podcast.
Yes.
We get to give our
right.
Most importantly.
I'll take the arrow on this.
Right, that's right.
The truth is the truth, though. Yeah, we're hard-headed. I know I am.
Yeah.
Very hard-headed.
So at what point of your business did you decide, okay, we're not just going to do concrete, we're going to add on all of these other pieces?
I think it was just because I just noticed that the market was changing. There's a lot of competitors in this business. And if you drive down the street, you'll see concrete trucks everywhere.
Yep.
So I just started to realize like we got to do something else. So a friend of mine, his name's Daniel. He has his own company, him and his dad. We teamed up. He's like, let's just try this. So somebody called him to build a pole barn. Want to do it? I'm like, shit, let's try it. In the middle of winter time.
Adaptability.
Yep.
That's right.
We buy some tools and the guy's like, hey, well, you guys are doing pretty good. Let's keep going. So built this big
building.
Is
it still up is the question.
I don't know. I haven't drove by there. I'm afraid to.
It's about the 2x4s on the ground.
I think it was just like she said, adapting because the market changes so much in construction. I was like, if we're going to survive. And then, of course, I have guys working for me, so I want to keep them busy and, keep their families fed too, help them.
Yeah.
Just about learning different things. We're out there anyway, so we might as well learn it. It's not like rocket science. I mean, concrete looks complicated, but once you do it, it's like anything else. It's not once you figure it out.
Yep.
Once you get your skill set.
So people would ask, hey, do you do fences? I'm like,
sure do.
Sure do. YouTube.
We were just talking about that.
YouTube. You can be anything.
One of my buddies like, hey man, you do fences, right? How do I bid this thing?
Well, that's funny that you say. Speaking of making money and bids and competition, we were talking about this a little bit, but I don't think we really touched on the fact that in our industry, in real estate, another big component of struggle is the fact that a lot of times people undercut on pricing.
Yeah.
So like if you're a listing agent, like, oh, this agent will do it for 2%, or they have all these conversations, and it's like you have to be pretty diligent about the fact that like, I'm not a discount agent. I don't do that. I don't do that kind of service.
Right.
How do you stay true to like your pricing, but still be competitive?
You got to kind of adjust. I adjust a little bit. I don't go too far out of my range. I just kind of, I guess, I have a new way of how I bid things. Before I would do like square footage price or by the yard of concrete yardage. But now I just itemize everything and I figure out all my costs, labor, things like that. And then I just start adding my percentages. It's worked out for me. I've actually stood busy more. I haven't cut anyone's throat or my own. But I have.
That's good.
Literally or
I
figuratively?
have adjusted because I did used to come in pretty high, So
Yeah.
I always ask people too, like if they're like, well, we pick somebody else, and I'll be like, I'll ask them. I'll say, well, what were the numbers in comparison, just for my own reference. And
Oh, that's
most
good.
people will let me know, so I'll kind of see where I needed to be.
Just figure out how to
That's
be
great.
competitive without being too.
And I know the market pretty good. I know what the cutthroat prices are. I know the guys that are way high. I try to like be in the middle of that somewhere.
Yep.
Yeah,
Well, you also know the value that you might not be the cheapest guy out there, but
Right.
the quality of your work is
For sure.
better than that cheapest bid.
Oh yeah.
So-
They learn that though too.
oh yeah,
You
people
can
learn-
only cut so many corners with this type of product.
Yeah.
sure.
They learn that in real estate too.
That's
So,
yeah, you said
that 1% agent when you don't hear from them for
A few people tell me like, we should have called you. I'm like, oh, it's all right.
You're like, it'll crack soon.
Actually, we'll be there.
That's so funny. Well, I know you personally, so I have kind of an inside track of this, but I know that you're really dedicated to everything that you do, whether it be your family, your business, going to the gym, you do music and always have. Like, how do you balance all of your passions to be?
Well, right now,
That's a good answer because most
I'll be
people say
honest, I've
that.
been struggling with that.
Yeah.
Because I think wintertime, when we're a little slower, the off season, I have a little more flexibility to be creative.
Yeah.
So then I'm doing more then, I notice. But like now, I'm just like consumed right now with business. So it's kind of tough. But I'm trying to find the middle ground. Make
Well,
some-
it's kind of the season of, getting all of you're picking all of the things you've been seeding for a long time.
Right.
So that
But-
makes sense.
But I was able, we work pretty fast because my sons, they produce, so they do all the graphics and videos and things like that. So we've compiled some stuff. It's just a matter of just when I want to release it.
Yeah. Tell me about your music.
I think I'm the best out there.
That's where the confidence came in.
Yeah, get them on the map, baby. It's actually became more of a therapeutic thing for me.
Mm.
The fun in it for me is just releasing music, creating it. Whoever hears and likes it, embraces it, I appreciate it. But other than that, it's more for me
Yeah.
anymore. Yeah.
True passion.
Yeah, it is.
I think that's really cool to be able to do that. I think that, especially when you have a very labor intensive job, I think you have to have when I started the staging business, my husband was like, why are you still doing that? I have people to do that. It's a creative side of my brain
Yeah.
because everything else is so logistical and it's so, communication constantly and doing all these things. And you just have a lot of, exercising of certain, brain muscles.
Mhm.
And then I get to do something that like, is just fun. And
Yeah.
I put sweatpants on and make things look
I guess
pretty.
that's what it is. It's fun for me.
Yeah,
I have fun. So
that's awesome.
it's a blast, actually.
And your sons both work for you.
Yeah. I just fired him today.
Too soon.
And they just found out now.
Yeah, right.
You watch this, I don't know when it's coming out, but I got fired, boy.
You can't find me. It's because I'm on Jobs Alone.
Yeah, they're great guys, and actually, they're teaching me some things, because my old ways,
Yep.
stubborn man or whatever. But they have new ideas. Yeah, do it this way. Why don't we do this? Let's market this way. So it's really helped me out in that aspect.
That's
Well,
awesome.
Have some
and I
young
think
blood.
that's really important for any entrepreneur of like, you might learn something from the younger generations or,
Yeah.
different things. They have something to bring to the table
Definitely.
because so many times, and I don't know if this is the same with you, prior to real estate, I did a lot of management and training and developing, and I was always the very young one doing all that,
Yeah.
where not always respected by the elderly.
Yeah.
I shouldn't call them elderly. They're going to watch. They're going to watch this and go, I was like 10 years older than you. Chill out.
Not respected
They did not respect. Actually, they did not when I wasn't working either. The senior citizens that worked there.
Like that.
But having that open mind to really be able to
to, oh, that's a really good idea. We can implement that into our business, or at least we can try it out, can really help your business grow even bigger. So, kudos to you on that.
Yeah, for sure.
And we've actually, we've been feeling growth for a while, for the last couple of years too. This has been one of our better seasons. And I think it has a lot to do with how they're helping me see things a little different.
Right.
My wife as well too, because my wife, she's like,
Oh yeah.
you got to get organized. Just sit down. I'm like, oh, my brain's just like fried.
Well,
with all their help, it's actually helped me out.
I think that's the most powerful thing in business, is being able to find people who are good at things that you're not, and being able to do that. And I mean, I never will forget this. I tell the story way too often, so you'll probably hear it again at some point. But I was dealing with this woman on a transaction, and she was so frazzled all the time. Every time I talked to her, it just sounded like I was calling her in the middle of a tornado. And she's like, I can't do that right now. My fax machine is broken. And I was like, excuse me, what? Like, what did you just, did you just say this is why you're having such a hard time, like you're going on 40-year-old technology right now and trying to
manually signing.
Oh, it was insane. But I think I never forget that, because I myself always say, I'm not great at technology, all the new things. And I film myself saying that, and I'm like, get good. Like, that's that whole adaptability thing. Is like, I'm going to be that lady on the friggin' fax machine trying to send over a contract. It was insane to me. And so I think that that's important. And I think you have to let people who are really innovative on that. Laura is that person for me a lot of times. Dominic's that person for me a lot of times, where they're like, this is a new thing and this is going to make your life easier. And I'm like, I hate learning new things, but then you do it.
Yeah, and it's good to learn too. And what I see for them too is more into sales.
Yeah.
I like to get that. They're starting to learn more, especially Toby. He's starting to take that role, looking at jobs and finding his own jobs too.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
So you're scaling too, because you're creating more of yourself to not have to be able to do all the things yourself.
Yeah. If we could just get the weather to cool down, that would help us out.
Oh man.
Same.
It's funny that you say that, because when I look at the weather, you're one of the people that pops in my head. When I saw the over 100 degrees all week, I was like, ooh, this is going to be intense.
It's a tough week, but we'll be all right.
Do you work? So does the concrete just like dry up immediately?
Pretty fast. Yeah. Like, we got the concrete. We were supposed to have it at 10, and they put, anyway, I ended up getting it at 12:30. I'm already here. So
yeah,
it's here by 3.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Fast.
That's awesome.
Yeah. The weather is definitely not
patios.
as much of a consideration for us, but still definitely, I mean, we're in the car a lot, but AC and stuff.
I had long sleeves on earlier.
That's
so
very true.
that wasn't great. That wasn't great. I'm gonna be really honest, but
that's awesome. Okay, so tell me about, in your journey of owning your own business, some of the things that you think have been really pivotal that you would like bestow on a new, if they were opening specifically a concrete business, or something, not any competitors, not anybody in Colorado, but somebody outside, what would be some words of wisdom you could share?
Know the trade. One thing. I mean, because I know a few people that have jumped in, they're more business and they didn't know much about the work itself.
Yeah.
Struggle with that. But having the advantage, like, learn it. I mean, you can learn as you go, but also as you have your business, but definitely learn the work.
For sure.
You understand where the quality is, quality control, what guys know how to do what, things like that.
For sure.
I think that's really important. And just knowing the right people, networking, like you said, network with the right guys. That way you have good finishers that you can hire, good workers. And be smart with your money.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of owning your own business. We've seen this very often in our industry, where people just like, either they spend way too much money, they want every shiny object, they want to invest all this money thinking that it's always going to be a return on investment, and it's not, or they live what's it called, like high on the hog is what they reference, where you're just blowing it as soon as it comes in.
Yeah, and you get, and also, like, with what I mean by that too is like as far as bidding,
You're talking about like the actual making of money too.
Yeah, I've been pretty fortunate. So, like I said, I learned it younger, how to bid the work. There's still some people that don't know how to bid it, so they're always in a jam to where they don't actually make profit. Sometimes I've seen people pay out of their own pocket
to get a job done.
Like, I'm just paying you out of my pocket because I didn't bid this right.
Yeah,
so it's a tough game. Because I mean, even like the guys that are cutthroats, I know they're having a hard.
Yeah.
And eventually, that's going to come back around. The market's going to go back up where it needs to be.
That is
That makes a lot of sense.
That does.
Yeah.
So has there been a time when you've kind of flipped a negative into a positive? You know, maybe it's a situation like that or something you've learned over the years where you've been able to do that.
There's been quite a few. Like I've had some challenging projects where we ran into some snags.
Okay.
You know, I've always been able to maintain it pretty well because I don't panic.
Mhm.
So we're especially in front of a client. And they panic.
Yep.
Let them panic. Just stay calm on nerves. I'll
Yep.
be all right. I just kind of like take a deep breath.
You're crying.
But there's always a way to fix it.
Yep.
You know, it's just a matter of being prepared for that. Sometimes like you'll get a hot truck, a hot load, and it'll just get really hard on you. And you just have to work it. You got to do it. You know.
Oh man.
So there's been those situations. I've had a situation early in my first week of business. It was a rough week because it was like the week my mom had passed. And then I started my business that same week. And then it was one of my first clients, like big clients. And then his patio cracked
Oh.
like the next day.
Oh no. Isn't that always how it works? So I think it's part of like getting your stripes in business is
Yeah.
that, and especially in the beginning or when it's a really hard time and you just need things to go right, that is where it will rock you a little bit to see if you're resilient and if you're going to stay in it.
Yeah, like that taking that hit was pretty hard, but it was a lesson to be learned. You know what I mean? But I'm glad I went through it.
Yeah.
Yep.
It all ended up working out okay, but
Yep.
I didn't, of course, didn't make any money on that thing, but
Yep. Learn the hard way,
Yeah.
right?
Lessons are expensive sometimes.
Oh yeah, especially now.
Yup.
Pull that jackhammer out. It's like, oh man,
Oh, so you had to like crack everything up and then do it again?
yeah, it was rough.
Oh
Oh,
my gosh.
no.
And then another thing I was gonna say too is that's one thing too is have either yourself or another guy that you can truly trust that is gonna watch everything
Mhm.
because it's so detailed. Like if with what we deal with, we're dealing with pitch because nobody wants water going towards the foundation.
Sure.
Yep.
Someone sets the form wrong. Say a guy's in a hurry to get home. He just sets it however, or the next day nobody checked it. You got to.
You have a mistake.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
just different things. Read the blueprints. Learn how to read blueprints. There's a lot out there.
We're in a good state for concrete too, because I heard this from another agent before, but they said, there's only two kinds of concrete that's cracked and concrete that's going to crack. And they said that basically saying like, because a lot of times when we're looking at homes, people are like, oh, it's going to crack. It's tiny and they want it perfect. And just explaining the fact, like we're in a, snow-based state and it's expanding and all these different things. So, I mean, you have job security probably forever because I drive around and see cracked concrete
Everywhere.
Yeah, I always let people know it's going to crack.
Yeah, well, because probably somebody would think if they weren't familiar that
Yeah.
something's wrong.
I had that happen too. Like, oh, I got a little crack in the corner. I'm like, oh, it's in my contract.
Right.
I explained the same thing you did with the expansive soil and the freestyle climate.
Sure.
Things like that. So, yeah, I mean, there's different challenges. There's what else is there? Jeez, don't hire drinks. Although some of them are the best roofers, I must admit.
You got
When they show
or
up.
they're drunk is all. It's like they want their beer.
That's maybe in any industry might be a good idea.
Well, it's funny because so my uncles were always in construction. My grandfather did a lot of construction. And so it's interesting because although I've never done construction, believe it or not, I know a lot about like the nuances of that industry. And it's true, like a lot. I mean, typically, and even just being in retail labor, the lower totem pole jobs, it's like it is a different kind of person that sometimes, and no offense to anybody, those are hard workers. But what I'm saying is like it's very passive, right? Like you don't have to necessarily have a consistent anything. And so it does sometimes gravitate people who are not going to be as consistent with, showing up, or maybe they have some extracurricular activities that aren't going to be conducive with
I've
a
seen it
solid,
all.
I'm sure.
I've seen it all.
Yeah, because that was always the thing is, my uncles doing that, they were able to kind of work their way up the ladder. And a lot of times they would joke it wasn't necessarily because they were doing a great job, but they showed up all the time and they were sober most of the time.
Yeah, that's the good part. Yeah, and the thing is like when I first got into it, it's not like that anymore, but that was part of the culture. Like the older guys, like my dad, all the older guys I knew, they were great workers, like extraordinary finishers. Don't get me wrong. They showed up every day too. They weren't the guys that would miss work, but it was part of the culture. That guys would be drinking on lunch.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not like that, but I remember that.
Or maybe it still is, but you own your own company now, so you don't allow it to be like.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm like, I'm sure you could still find some places
So,
where people drink.
For everyone listening, he does not have drunks
That's
Yeah.
right.
on
so
the
if you wanna
job.
get
So if
high-
I smell like beer in the morning.
if you want to risk it,
I remember that from retail days. Remember we were seeping through
Oh,
your
yeah.
borders?
you're like,
You're like,
oh
last
no.
night drunk.
Oh,
This
man.
isn't.
You're like, that's why you were 5 minutes late.
That's
I gotta make it through this.
that reminds me of that movie if you ever watched it, School of Rock. Where
Yeah.
he's like, so you know what a hangover is? Yeah, you mean it's you're drunk. He's like, no, it means I was drunk last night. It's seeping. It's not current.
Right.
Well, last question that I have for you, and then if Laura has anything else, what is next for you in your business endeavors? Like, what do you hope to achieve next?
Honestly, our goal, and it's naturally happening, is just to keep growing.
Mm.
We're meeting new people. We're getting better, higher end clients. We're actually growing in Arvada quite a bit because that's
Nice.
where we're
Okay.
located. So we're starting to, that market's becoming really good for us, like through Google and actually next door. We're down.
Oh, that's
Oh, wow.
cool.
I started posting stuff on there. I get some jobs off that, and then just word of mouth. That's our primary way of advertising.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's probably nice too to be where you live, not have to. I
I
know
know.
we have done the same thing where you travel wherever someone needs you, and then you start realizing, like, I'm in the car most of the time trying to
Yeah.
do this. This is time that could be spent. So I think you do get, we were talking about, like, you start to get to a point where you can specialize somewhere because you're not so hungry for a paycheck that you have to take every job. You can refer out, you can do other things.
Mhm.
And that's nice too, I'm sure, because that
Yeah, I
gives more
also
time
sub
for your
out work,
family.
too, that I can't get to. I have other friends that are contractors.
Yeah.
So it works out pretty good, and yeah, we just want to keep growing and building. You know, it's been going good so far. And we're not gonna stop. Just go harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
like you're gonna-
Harder.
That's right. Do you feel like you'll be, like, as far as the business goes, do you feel like you'll be in the labor side for longer, or do you feel like you're going to start to kind of transition?
Yeah, I'll be out of there at some point. I just don't. Certain jobs, I mean, I'll still be there, but for the most part, I'm just going to be running the show.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's a job in itself.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
You're trying to answer the phone and you got all these bids you got to go do. Usually I do them after work, you know, like pulling up to the house at 8 or 9 o'clock. It's like, oh man, I can't be doing this.
Yeah.
So it does wear me out. So yeah, the goal definitely is to get out of the field.
Be able to just kind of
Yeah.
work on the business
Right.
instead of in the business.
Yeah, I'll probably just be there for more of the decorative work, things like that.
You guys do a lot of cool stuff, stamps, and what are some of the things that you do just in case somebody's
Yeah, we
wanting to
do,
hire
we
you?
do epoxy floors. We do stamping, staining, different decorative things like that.
Very cool.
It's fun too.
What else?
I love it. I think that's pretty much sums it up.
Awesome. Anything we can help you with as two other fellow business owners? Is there anything you'd like to ask us? Because we're super
Yes.
knowledgeable and just the
And
professional.
everything.
It's true. So true.
Everything.
So what made you guys want to do this podcast?
That's a great question. I think we've talked about it a couple different times, but we'll kind of. Do you want to answer first? I always talk. So
You can answer.
Okay.
She loves talking.
I do love talking. That's true.
I
That
love
is fun.
sitting and looking pretty.
You're very good at it. For me, we talked about this even a little bit earlier in the episode, but just to kind of reiterate this, we want to build a community of good people. And to your point, networking and sharing ideas and being able, just recently, I said this morning to my husband, I feel like the universe is gravitating good people towards me. Like I've always had good people in my life, but I feel like they're just coming in droves right now. And the whole goal is to try to create this good community. And especially as entrepreneurs, I think it's a really lonely world. I don't know if you agree with that, but I
Yeah.
feel like you're on your own island, you're running your own business. You don't have, you don't have the corporate, like, oh, at the water stand and, have a pizza party. Like you don't
Yeah.
have any of those things. And so
You can.
you can't, you sure can.
You sure can.
We can all have a pizza party.
Let's have a pizza party right now.
That's right. But that's the whole thing is like, how do we learn from each other? And the whole premise of the podcast is around, which you're not, but you're a father. And you don't have to be a mother or a father, but like family, business, and community. And so we wanted to we didn't, maybe they're out there, maybe we stole your idea and we didn't know it, but we didn't see any podcasts that cover those things in
Yeah.
its entirety.
That's awesome.
What about you? What did you want to do?
Well, I actually was the one who asked Chantel if she wanted to do a podcast.
That's true, but I had to.
So we kind of just came together on different ideas that we had, but that sense of community is really big because it is very lonely as an entrepreneur. And sometimes you feel like you're, alone on your own island. And anybody you ask for advice or you try to start building up that community doesn't want to. They want to stand their own grounds. They don't want to share their advice, and different things like that and secretive. And I think, just over the past couple of years, we've both came around to a lot of great people that want to share this. They just don't know where or how to do it. And so it's really great to have a platform that can really, show everybody.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm benefiting even from this conversation of learning a little bit more about you, your business, and how it can also, you're probably going to be my referral partner for concrete now. So we love
Our
it.
producer that you can't see, Pauline, needs his concrete done, and that just happened in this room, you guys.
Yes.
Yeah, that's I think cool too. Is just we like to promote people's businesses. We like to promote our business, in case you guys haven't noticed from our name drops over and over again. But I think that's a cool part of this too. I don't know if everyone always is each other's cheerleaders, and we want to do
That's
that.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
And I think also, just to put in some charities in there as well. There's a lot of local charities out there too that people just don't know where to start. Even when I moved to Colorado, I wanted to get more involved with different volunteering, can't even speak, but volunteering in charities and whatnot, because I had done that in Minneapolis. But other than the big named ones, I didn't know what those local communities were. And even starting this podcast, we're starting to find out about more local charities and volunteering opportunities that can get a little bit more exposure so that they can also grow too.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm excited. I've used your business. I'm also your friend, so I'm kind of mandatory obligated.
Yes.
No, but I mean, I think that's one of those
You're gonna
things
come
where
to the next barbecue, girl.
that's right. Yeah, that's true. I will not be invited to 4th of July if I don't use your business. But we're just honored to have somebody who, again, a lot of times when you start from the labor side of things, you don't necessarily always have the ease of understanding. Just because you started at a certain position doesn't mean you can't be your own business owner and own your own things. And I think that's important to show as well, because a lot of times people feel like where they are is where they have to stay, and you don't.
I'm honored to be here. I thank you ladies for having me here. One thing I did forget to say though,
Yes.
is be obsessed with work.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to tell us that
Yeah.
because
I'm not telling you that.
I'm all
out there starting the business or whatever, you have to be obsessed with work. You
yeah.
gotta be a hard worker for sure.
Yeah. You can't, Snoop Dogg, you'll appreciate this. Snoop Dogg said, people are obsessed with the result and they need to be obsessed with the journey. Like if they see you now being successful and owning your own business and having a nice truck and having a nice house and going and y'all eat good dinners. Like one thing I always know is
It's like I love being invited.
hungry if I find out where you're at and I'm not invited. I'm like, damn, okay, we're having ramens, but enjoy your lobster. But that's the whole thing. But he said, you see the result of something. You see somebody, if they're a laborer right now or a cleanup crew trying to, start in concrete, they want to do that. But do you want to do that because you actually want to do the things, or you just want the things? If you don't want to do the things, you're not going to get the things. That was a lot
It's
of
not going to happen overnight.
No. Yeah, you're 90 and you're just
Still a long
starting.
way to go. I'm in my prime.
That's right. You
Be 50.
Well, I mean, so I
Prime
keep saying
age.
this is the last of this, but we could talk forever and we like to banter. But you are in the gym how often?
Not as often as I should be, but I try to at least get 4 days a week.
That's
Okay.
pretty good.
That's
And I mean,
impressive.
you go hard. It's not like he's not doing, no offense to anybody who is, but he's not doing the silent yoga. He's doing like
Yeah.
heavy lifting and doing that stuff.
But
I think,
I'm actually I've been doing 2 a days. Today's gonna be my second day in a row, so
Wow.
wow.
go hard.
Well, then on top of that, it's very labor intensive at work
Yeah.
too. So
You're doing
you are getting through today.
Oh, like I said, if you didn't hear me before, always
Well,
eating good food.
Yeah.
So you'd probably be 700 pounds if you weren't going
probably
and
would.
working hard. Yeah. No, so that's a good point. That's a good, like, wrap it up in a bow. Be obsessed with work, because
Yeah.
if you're not obsessed with it, you're probably not going to hit the mecca of what you want to hit.
Yep.
I appreciate you for coming.
Thank
For
you.
letting us talk about you. And yeah, tell everyone Concrete, if you are looking in the Colorado area, but specifically he specializes in Arvada and kind of how far out do you go? Anywhere you want in Colorado, maybe even New Mexico. He's newly found New Mexico. That's right. Thank you, Toby. I appreciate it.